Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching an Unknown Baguette. He does have a French flag, but remember you can change it on the XVM website, so I guess it could be an incognito role player playing in the Tier 10 Chinese light tank, the WZ1321. But you know what, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I guess Unknown Baguette, or I guess Baguette Inconnu, is indeed French, and I'm going to be going for that throughout this replay. Now, the WZ1321, the Tier 10 Chinese light tank, what is special about it? Well, it's a really big step up from the WZ132A, which is the Tier 9 Chinese light, which I'm currently working my way through, and really I'm not having the best of time with the WZ132A. It feels like I enjoyed the old WZ132 when it was at Tier 8 more, even though it got that worst matchup. But the 1321, when I've been looking at the statistics of this vehicle, it's just a really big step up. The alpha damage is the highest of any of the Tier 10 light tanks. It's 390, and that certainly is significant. With 246mm of penetration, this would be a pretty okay gun on a Tier 9 medium tank. Of course, it would be a rather poor one on a Tier 10 medium tank, but that's how these vehicles have ended up being balanced out. The rate of fire of this gun is 5.61 rounds a minute. That is, I guess, slightly better than the Centurion 7-1, but when we compare it to the 390 alpha damage of all of the other Tier 9 meds, such as the Type 61, which I believe fires 6 rounds a minute, you've got the Leopard prototype now with double buffs, taking that rate of fire above the 5.61 that this vehicle has, and it goes without saying that tanks like the Patton, the M46 Patton, which fires something silly like 6.66 rounds a minute, or 6.5 rounds a minute, just really do outclass this tank. And so that means that when you are playing your WZ1321, and when you are playing against one, don't think that it has an incredible rate of fire, and if you are a Tier 10 vehicle, you can easily loop in 2 shells, and even a tank like, even some Tier 9 medium tanks, as I mentioned, will be able to loop in 2 shells for every time the WZ1321 fires, so definitely take advantage of that. So one thing that is really cool looking about this vehicle is this kind of Tesla coil. Obviously, I believe it's some kind of a guard against RPGs, I guess, rocket-propelled grenades, or maybe it would provide even some use against heat ammunition. And in World of Tanks, the game that we all play, it does provide some heat protection because it actually counts as 3mm of spaced armor. And so that means that if you do get jammed in the side by high explosive rounds or heat rounds, then you are going to be doing rather well. Now the artillery splashes Unknown Baguette here from the north. He is situated right up in the corner over there, we can tell from the hit direction. And this Gorilla sitting behind Unknown Baguette is being the kind of tank destroyer that you don't want to have on your team when you are playing in your light tanks. Now, you'd be hoping that maybe the tank destroyer be a little bit further back behind the bush, or alternatively waiting behind the rock to pop out and shoot when you do get the spot, allowing you time to fall back. But obviously having the camera rating here of the WZ1321, it's not useful when you have a gigantic Tier 10 German tank destroyer sitting behind you. Now, apart from the Tesla coil-esque features of this vehicle and the fact that it has a bit of a heat shield going on around it, well, 3mm worth, but it is quite distanced, and remember that's one of the most important things to have with your spaced armor, is a big distance between it and the flat, non-spaced main protection that your vehicle has, i.e. the turret armor, the thickness. And that's because the turret itself is actually incredible on this vehicle. It is the best turret on any light tank in the game, even better than that on the T-54 lightweight, for example. It has 200mm of frontal protection, and as with most Soviet and Chinese designs, it is very spherical, so that means that it increases the effective angle when you do hit off the sides, especially from the front. If you deviate and hit either the left or the right, even the upper parts of the tank, then the armor thickness of this vehicle is more like a medium tank. In fact, it's very similar to the effectiveness of the T-54, that Tier 9 Soviet medium tank that everybody knows and loves. Now, while you do have to deal with 5 degrees of gun depression in this vehicle, just having that turret that you feel safe getting shot by pretty much most of the tanks in the game, and it's only super high penetration rounds or Tier 10 tank destroyers that I would not be interested in getting shot in the turret in the WZ1321. Of course, you do have cupolas on top of the tank that you need to watch out for, but most light tanks, you just have to be thinking if you get hit, you get overmatched, let alone having armor that you might be able to use effectively against your opponents. Now, one thing that is a little bit disappointing about this vehicle is the accuracy, as with all of the tier 10 light tanks, 0.42. And that means you really have to zero in your shots with the WZ-1321 to be able to hit the weak points. And unfortunately, while Unknown Baguette did hit the Emil there, he didn't quite take his tracks off and also damage the vehicle at the same time. If he'd managed to, then that tier 8 auto-loading Swedish... I keep getting Swedish and Czechoslovakian mixed up. I'm sure that you guys point that out for me in my videos. Swedish autoloader would have been caught out and taken down. But I'd like to highlight a couple things here. Number one, what a scumbag artillery. That was his own artillery, of course. You can't see where the enemy artillery are marking. Basically told him to move and do something for me by threatening to fire in his area. But also, Unknown Baguette has some slick moves there as he gets himself out of harm's way. And that is what is great about these high-tier light tanks, is they have an exceptional power-to-weight ratio, and they also have a very decent ground resistance. Well, this vehicle has decent ground resistances, and Unknown Baguette tries to be very sneaky and slips his way up the slope there, but he doesn't quite have the traction to make it all the way up, and he actually falls and takes 68 damage from his own actions. But you know what, he's going to give it a go. If at first you don't succeed, try again, and he does make it up. And now he is in a basin. Will he be able to use the turret armor of this tank? Well, he doesn't need to, because he can use these bushes that are in front, and that allows him to get a shot into the tier 10 tank destroyer on the enemy team. But he does get spotted by the M103, and he bounces the Object 263. There we go, the turret armor of this vehicle holding up, and he went down that slope very aggressively, but he doesn't take any more damage. Oh, unfortunately, he doesn't pen the M103, but the M103 bounces off him, off his turret again, now blocking nearly 1,000 damage. That's enough to kill some of the tier 8 light tanks, let alone, well, no, I think they've all got 1,000 health, but you can see why blocking 950 health, which is 2/3 of his hit points, would be very useful indeed. The M103 messes up his second shot, and that allows Unknown Baguette to finish him off with a good round into the lower plate there. Now the 263 is advancing towards the 5100. Will Unknown Baguette be able to put one more round into him? Yes, he will, but unfortunately the 5100 dies, leaving Unknown Baguette now in a 1 versus 5 situation. And now these are the kind of replays that I truly love. You know, when you have to deal with multiple opponents at the same time, it sorts the men from the boys. You know what I'm saying. It sorts the good players from the great players. And Unknown Baguette is immediately going back towards his base to try and set up in these bushes to, I guess, try and kill his opponents one by one. So he spots the FV4005, that tier 10 turreted British tank destroyer right out in the open. And that is something that you're really not going to be bouncing with the WZ-1321, especially if he's firing that HESH ammunition. It'll splash over his vehicle, taking out most of his remaining hit points, but he shuts him down fast. Now up to 5,000 damage done and 4 kills, and he's using the great camo of this vehicle in conjunction with the bushes to be able to spot his opponents without getting seen, and they have no idea where he is quite yet, but he goes a little bit too far forwards there, and he ends up getting spotted by the Tiger II, and oh dear, a heat round ricochets off. Now he's only got 10 seconds to be able to interrupt the cap. This is the shell for the game. If he misses this, he won't be able to have another one. Oh, thank goodness. He interrupts the Tiger II, taking him down, and now he has to deal with a Lerva, but again, the pressure is on. 11 seconds left. He needs to make an interrupting shot here, and he shoots the top of the vehicle, and even though it doesn't damage the tank, because he crit the Lerva there, he did some critical damage to him, it resets the cap. Now back to 23 seconds, but one of them leaves the cap circle, I guess the Lerva on the enemy team, waltzing his way up the slope. Now, Unknown Baguette is now down to 8 rounds of high explosive anti-tank ammunition and 3 rounds of high explosive. He's got to be careful here. He puts one auto-aimed into the Emil, and it goes right through. His APCR rounds would have been very efficient against the side of the vehicle there, but the heat round also dealt with it. I love this move. Shuts one down, slides out the way of the Lerva using the corner, and then this is just absolutely brilliant. You couldn't do this in most light tanks. He's sitting in a hull down location. And this is the kind of position that you want to be in your WZ-1321, using that 5 degrees of gun depression, only exposing your turret, and just picking apart your opponents. Is this going to be his 4th kill if he manages to get the Lerva here? And in this kind of a position, even the Lerva with 232mm of penetration has to be an underdog to be able to go through the frontal turret armor of the WZ-1321 here, unless of course he does hit the cupolas. Shutting him down, 7th kill, 7,300 damage. That was just absolutely masterful how he got through that situation, not losing a single hit point against those 4 enemy tanks that he took out. 1 of equal tier, of course, 3 of lower tier. But again, when you're playing in your light tanks, it usually doesn't matter if they're lower tier. Now this is just one of my favourite parts of the replays here. Unknown Baguette stops momentarily on that corner, I guess because he presumed that the Object 263 that was last spotted here would have made his way down the slope. And now this is where you're trying to extend your view range in your light tanks. You're trying to factor out the positions that your opponents could be in. And I guess because the Object 263 hasn't made his way down here, because the Object 263 hasn't gone directly down here, there's only one possible way that the Object 263 would have tried to attempt to go round, and I guess he tried to make his way all the way around here to hopefully flank Unknown Baguette. However, Unknown Baguette dealt with the enemy vehicles fast enough that he didn't get flanked. On 923 hit points, he is still able to take a shot from the Object 263. And there's only one thing that I don't like that he's done so far, and that is that he hasn't used his repair kit on repairing the damaged fuel tanks of his vehicle, because that means that without a fire extinguisher he could indeed get burnt up here, but maybe he's got a fire extinguisher crew for all I know. So Unknown Baguette catches the Object 263, ill prepared, right in the side. Beautiful play, and the 390 alpha damage of this vehicle leaves nothing to chance, really dealing 344 to the tier 10 Soviet tank destroyer. So what a cool, calm, calculated carry here for Unknown Baguette. Some of my favorite replays to watch are games like these, where it's not the raw power of the tank alone that gets the player through the situation, but their predictions, knowledge, and skill. Unknown Baguette nails his ace tanker here for 1,463 base experience points, fantastic for a tier 10 vehicle, a Radley Walters medal for his 8 kills in this game, the Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against at least 5 opponents, and a defender medal, and what a defender medal this would be, yeah, over 100 base defense points, in addition to a high caliber for 7,729 damage dealt. That's great for a light tank in the top 10 for all tier 10 light tanks at the moment for videos uploaded to What Replays. And so, merci beaucoup de Baguette Inconnu pour l'excellent rejouer. I'm not going to embarrass my French audience anymore, I'm really sorry. And I tell you what, if this is a Brit who has gone on the XBM website and changed their flag to a French flag, then this certainly will be the ultimate troll. Either way, you make me really look forward to getting my way through the WZ132A and enjoying the tier 10 Chinese light tank, which I think is going to be top of the tree next month on the European server if you're grinding your way there now. And hopefully all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, I'd really appreciate it. And also today I'm super proud to be launching an official store where you can pick up t-shirts so that you can get some cool stuff and also, I guess, help support my content at the same time. Currently there are 2 designs, my original favorite featuring the Comet, as well as personally my favorite, and that is the shield design that you might have been seeing me wearing right now. There's a unisex version or one tailored towards maybe my 4 or 5 female viewers out there. And also I've listened to some of your feedback that the unisex organic t-shirt was not available in what we're calling man sizes, and so I'm pleased to say to all my biggest fans out there, I've got your back, and there is a version of the t-shirt which will be going up, I guess, all the way to 5XL, and I'll make sure I keep all of you informed when new designs go up. And if you want to check it out, either click that more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen, or I'll put a link in the description below. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another Tech Tree showcase right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this time, thanks to Grant and the 100 of you who liked his suggestion, I'm going to be playing through to the Object 263, that tier 10 Soviet tank destroyer. And if you've never seen one of my Tech Tree showcases before, it's basically like a miniature tank review all the way up the line, so you can see if it's a tech tree that you're interested in picking up yourself, or if you already have the tanks, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks. And so, as always, thank you so much for watching, you've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.